Hello guys, welcome to League Connect India's podcast. Basically, we are very excited to start off, and it's actually taken us a while to do so. But just before we start, let me just explain to you guys what LCI is. So, League Connect India is basically an initiative taken by three very interested members of the community from League of Legends India, who basically want to give an avenue or a platform for the community of India, the League of Legends community, to basically showcase their information, their talents, and what they're good at. It's basically a first of its kind series that we will be doing, and we hope to bring you a lot more episodes in the future. And the whole idea is basically we want to give Indian players as well as players from the subcontinent, mind you, including Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan, the exposure and the coverage to establish a platform to discuss the LoL scene. Alright, so I have with me three special guests today, or two of which are going to be a recurring part of the podcast along with me. The first person I'd like to introduce is Nutan, or she goes by her in-game name as Engineer Rabbit. Hey Engineer, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good as well. So would you like to talk more about who you are?
Yeah. So I'm a captain of an all-girls League of Legends India team called Galaxy India. We're the sister team of Galaxy Singapore. A lot of people in the community know Apo. So she approached us, and that's how we sort of came to be.
Nice. So you has to be added. You're the first ever Indian League female team. So that's actually
Yes,
kudos to
yes.
you. And on the other side, I have Shaival, aka Shy9. Hey Shai, what's up?
Yo, my name is Shine9. I am a video content creator and I make montages and stuff. That's all.
Stuff. We have to know
Stuff.
to more
I
of
make stuff.
yes to know more of the stuff he makes. Do follow his channel. It's basically Shy9 with the 9 at the end of it. So yeah, coming back to the leakage podcast, so we hope to basically do this on a regular basis, where every episode we will feature one of our special guests from the Indian community, and we'll basically sit down with them and talk to them about the game, talk to them about themselves, and get to know more about them. So that's the initiative that we're looking at, and we hope that you enjoy watching this from our side as well. Now, our first guest, and as I have to mention, I'm really happy to have him on board because he is one of the legacies of the LoL Indian community because he's been around for a long time. Is basically Siddharth Frost Ranjan. Hey Sid, are you there?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Bishi. Hello, everybody else as well. Hi, this is Frost here, fellow league player and admin of LOL India.
There we
That's
go.
about it.
So yeah, Frost is going to be our first guest today, and basically we're going to get to know a lot more about Frost. Now the thing is, a lot of the community nowadays, right, Andrew, if you notice, like people new to the scene don't really know who Frost is, but they sort of get to know because he's always around making tournaments and stuff. Like, what was your first impression when you heard of Frost?
For me, Frost was the ultimate god at the time, and I remember telling him that at one point. That Frost ko mara to bhai life set ho gayi. I remember I was playing like very early on. I was playing a game against Frost, and I was playing I think support Leona or something, and he was Morgana,
Morgana.
and I had heard this like reputation about him that oh my god, Frost is like the best support in India and all that jazz. And eventually, I think early game, level 2 or level 3, we had a 3-man gank at bot, and I landed the last auto attack, which ended up killing Frost. And I remarked later on that I should put that on my CV that 2000 like 16 killed Frost Senpai.
All
Voted
this
me to be
overhype.
the captain.
That was the
Voted
kind of
me to be
hype
the
that
captain.
was around. That's the kind of hype that was around Frost from the start. Like when I got to know him, I found out that he was just like one of the gang, but that came much later.
Yeah, that's actually the same thing I had. Like when I joined the Indian community, I used to play on the NA servers before. So I got to know that Frost is like I think EDX at that time was still there, Frost, and you were this person that was
Yeah.
helping other teams. And dude, like intimidation was probably the first thing I felt when I spoke to Frost because he was this kind of guy. He was coaching this new team called Frost Academy at that time, and I was a part of the enemy team. And he was very friendly, but I heard a lot of things about you don't make mistakes if you play with Frost, otherwise he's going to basically scold you, and then you're gonna like really get afraid of him. तो मेरे को तो honestly लगता था कि I was like shit यार फ्रॉस्ट के सामने थोड़ा सा don't fuck up, like just play safe. नहीं तो बहुत गाली सुनने मिलेगी. But obviously once you get to know him, it's not the case. Shai, do you have any first moments when you heard about Frost?
I actually heard about Frost when he posted on the LOL India group. He posted like he was coaching a team. I don't really remember. He said he was coaching a team and he was hosting a tournament for it.
Trials.
Oh yeah, that's so much recent.
Yeah, I think trials.
Yeah, the trial. So you to actually know Frost quite late. Like we've known him for a while. But yeah, let's face.
I came into the.
No, it's okay. I've been in this scene forever, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like Frost is one guy for me also. If I ever got to know someone in the community, like a lot of people will be like, Frost is someone that they look up to, and this is something Frost I've heard about you. Not trying to again, make you whatever, but it's really true. Like a lot of people looked up to you for a lot of information and advice in general, including supports. I remember when just to like take one name, Shifu was one person, and he would definitely look up to you in those things. So it's like people who join the community, at least in our Facebook group and when on TeamSpeak as well, like Frost is one person that they know is someone who's been around for a while. So this is where like a lot of people know about you eventually, but I don't think they know much about where you started off or how Frost basically became Frost, even to the point of where did the IGN come from. So I want to get to that point first. Like Frost, how did you start with League of Legends? Like what made you get to play this game in the first place and when was it?
Okay, so all of this starts like in my first year of college. So there used to be a gaming cafe near my PG. So like keep in mind that I've never played competitive before. So we used to go there. All our PG mates used to go there, and we just used to play CS 1.6. We used to play amongst ourselves, and it used to be the end of that. So this cafe had a pass system. So like one day we went there and we saw that there's a really cool offer that if you play this game you're supposed to get $200 in your account, and yeah, through that, as in like if you get through $200 so basically 10 hours of free gameplay. So and all you had to do was level up till 10 in this particular game, and that game turned out to be League. So one night me and two of my friends, we made the accounts and we started leveling up, and yeah, I never looked back again. It was like love at first sight for me.
When did you start off with playing League? What season was it first for you?
It was I think the end of season 1, near the end of season 1.
Oh my god!
The end of season. Sorry, season 2.
Oh, season 2. That's like nearly 6
season
years.
Season 2 around in August I started the game.
Damn.
Yeah.
Did you do the tutorial first?
Oh yeah, I did everything because I had no experience. I had zero experience in MOBA. I didn't even know what a MOBA game was. I was just I was like learning from the scratch. Like I was under the impression that Malphite can tank towers endlessly because he's a rock, and yeah, it was all. I was that big of a noob at the game. So yeah, like fond memories if I remember. I used to love playing the game.
I can so relate.
You bought Thornmail on Ash.
Yeah, probably must have. Did the tutorial at that time have that? Did you have to buy Thornmail on Ash 10 also?
No, tutorial, yeah, it was a single lane and you used to have Ash, yes. And I don't know if you needed to buy Thornmail. But yeah, back then it was like right clicking, how to attack minions. And first it was a basic tutorial, then there was an intermediate tutorial and you had to...
Oh, I think I still think it's the same. Like I don't think League of Legends has changed its tutorial since that point. This is one of the few things I think they should probably look at. It reminds me of...
I think like 2-3 of the... Sorry to interrupt you. Like 2-3 of the very big players in the Indian scene, everybody started because of the single offer. That one offer like made us all start the game, and we all fell in love with it and we never looked back.
That's kudos to the cafe owners, to be honest. That's actually a very smart initiative for people to get into League or any game for that matter, because if you play longer you get money in an account. I actually like that. I don't think it's probably something we should look at, like cafe should look at more often for League, because the whole world actually plays League and India is one of those
exactly
regions.
Because I am the biggest case study for cafe players because of that singular offer. It was the defining moment for my League scene at least.
Yeah. So I remember newer days as well. Like I used to take Like I think I would just take Smite every game at level 6 or 7 because every co-op game would have an Annie, and I would just use the Smite on Tibber. So like I totally understand what you mean by playing like a noob when we started off. But like I want to get to the point, like how did you come up with the Raiji and like Frost for that matter? Was it something that you started off with, or was that something you later changed?
I've been a very big fan of strategy games since my childhood. I used to play a lot of Age of Empires and stuff. And one day, like I discovered this WoW Frozen Throne. Yeah, so in WoW, like there's a character named Arthas, the paladin, who eventually becomes the Lich King. So his sword used to be known as Frostmourne, and I loved that sword, and I loved the whole history associated with that sword. So I was like, if I ever have a proper name, like whenever I shift, or if I ever like play on a competitive level, this will be my name, and that became my name, and eventually everybody knows me by that name.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think I knew you as Frost before I knew you as Siddharth Ranjan, to be honest.
Yeah, I think now it's big, like it's reaching a point where I feel weird when somebody uses my real name instead of Frost in the scene, at least, because I'm not used to it. I've actually lost use. I'm not used to it at all.
Like that's the thing, but nowadays if I look at your IGNs, you use like every combination of everything. It's been so long since I've seen your IGN go back to Frost. Like like now it's a Frost Morn, which is partly Frost, and then I think back then it was like you've changed a lot recently.
Yeah,
And
I've been saying it's always been like the original one was Frostmourne though. It was Frostmourne, TX
oh,
Frostmourne. That,
TS
that
Frost.
was my first IGN on Garena, yes.
So, like, how did it get to the point first? Like, when you started playing this game, were there any tournaments or were there any scenes in the Indian community, or how did you like? Did you ever enter a tournament? Tell me about that. I really want to know because it's like season 2 was 6 to 7 years ago, and at that time, I'm not really sure what the scene was like because even I wasn't playing LoL at that time. So, how was it for you to enter tournaments, or were there any tournaments? Like, how did you get to basically interact with the community in that sense?
I mean, for season 2, I think for me, at least, there was no tournaments for me because I was a complete noob at the game. I had no idea how to play, and this is someone like I had actually no idea how to play. So, season 2 was completely spent trying to learn what I could. Tournament scene I didn't enter until I think the end of season 3. And the only reason I entered the tournament scene because we had some cafe mates who used to play with me the game, and I was like, that was the way we entered. We didn't have a tournament structure per se. We used to have there is still like go for lols which are held in US. We used to be on US back then. So go for lols are held every week. So once we thought that we are we are a good team, or we thought we were good, and so we went and registered for go for lols, and we got smashed in the first round or the second round, I think.
Damn.
And then that was when I like started thinking like, okay, so this is not just a joke. So for us it was always fun at that time. We had never the intention to start with the intention of going pro, but back then we just wanted to have fun together. It was just playing with friends, playing different champions, playing all sorts of things, and it was really fun back then. So yeah, I mean, then eventually I think at the end of season 3 we started to know about the Indian scene, and we started to enter into tournaments.
What role did you play back then?
Back then I used to not roles. I was a complete noob, so I was learning champions. So I used to learn different champions, and used to think I was very good at them. So AP Malphite mid was one of them.
Oh yeah, my
It
man.
hurts. It actually hurts. Yeah, like AP Malphite mid, it hurts a lot. Even now, I think it hurts. So yeah, if you ever play Rams, you'll know the power of AP Malphite mid. And I used to play a lot of Mordekaiser. I used to love the champ, and because I don't know why. I used to love the champ because you could make ghosts, and you could use that ghost to kill everyone. Mordekaiser was a favorite. Malphite was a favorite. Very early on, I think Garen was a favorite because it was very easy to play champions. So I thought, like, why not? Yeah, these 3 champions. Initially, I did not used to main a role. I was just all about just trying to learn the game and having fun at the game, because at that time you're just playing with friends, so you're able to go. You want to go anywhere you want. So
Yeah, right.
I have to ask, when did the Morgana obsession begin?
Oh, the Morgana obsession began much later. After I had gone pro, I think 1.5 years after going pro. So we were playing this scrim against this thing, Back then it used to be NeckBreak with Niket. Evil Dead. He's another very legendary player and one of the best supports in India ever seen, to be honest. So he used to play a lot of hook champions. So it was Thresh, it was Blitzcrank, and in those days it was very rare. Even these days, like it's very rare for Indian teams to scrim each other, and we were scrimming them somehow. So in that particular set, somebody told like I think like Brutality was Miss ADC back then. So yeah, we were just testing stuff out, and I thought why not just play more and see how am I with it. So we lost the scrim because we had a Garen top in that scrim. I don't know why, but we had a Garen top in that scrim. But I hit like 90% of my binds and I fell in love with it. I was like, okay, so this champion, there's a lot of potential. And then I started spamming it. And then I don't know why, by God's grace, or I don't know how, I discovered that I was good at landing the bindings. So I was like, why not just play this? And then it turned into a complete obsession. I spammed that champion over and over, solo queue, and I was having like 90% plus win rates over
Whoa.
like 30 games, 40 games. So I was like completely in love with the champion. And it became to a point that, I was completely dominating lanes with it. Of course, I had Brutality, so why not? But yeah, I mean, the amount of snowball I thought the champ, because the best part about that champion was the black sheep. I think because the ability, because Brutality is a very ham ADC, so you see him going in, all the flashy plays, and that black shield used to give him that comfort that he can go, especially on blue side, because there is less space to dodge if you push the lane. So I used to play Morg, and I used to just keep harassing them under tower, and we used to just keep making kills over and over again. So that's how I think the Morg obsession started. Props to Evil Dead for that.
Also, looking at the Indian online gaming, Dota is unfortunately in the spotlight as of now, and it has a much higher player base than League of Legends in India. So, when you had started playing at the cafe with the offer and stuff, you never you were first introduced to MOBA, and you said that you fell in love with it. Did your eyes not wander towards Dota maybe, or try playing
Yes.
it, or what's like?
I had limited time to play. I was trying to pass my college, otherwise my parents would recall me back to my hometown if I did not do well in my papers. So yeah, I had limited time to play, and the time and like League was something separate. So I devoted most of my time to 1.6 and all the different fun games, and then later on League, of course, became the primary game. But I used to have a short time set aside for League. And once I started League, and by the time I discovered Dota, it was too late because I had completely fallen to League. Like I was like, okay, this is the game I want to play. I don't care about the other games.
League
And
was
yeah, exactly. I never went back to Dota anytime.
League was your first MOBA love.
Yes, it was the first and the only MOBA love. I think I've never played a MOBA since.
I'm
So,
kind of happy for that, dude, because imagine if Frost was not in the scene, how it would have happened for this. So, Frost, tell me a bit, like, when did you actually win your first ever tournament?
the first ever tournament. When did we win it? We won it in EU West. I think it was some India tournament which is being hosted in EU West only. I think it was Razor's event back then. I don't recall the exact name of the tournament. And yeah, we used to have this kick-ass team from Gujarat. Uh, I don't know, remember what their name was, and yeah, we beat them in the finals, and I think that was the first time we ever won a tournament. Back then with my cafe mates, we were really really happy. My God, we were happy.
Were there back then?
Huh? I'm sorry.
How many teams were there back then?
In that tournament, I think 8 teams were competing. So yeah, I mean, this is not the main scene. This was some scattered US players playing together on that server. So we came to know through that tournament that other Indian players also exist. And yeah, we were really we were happy to discover that we're not alone in this foreign server. Yeah.
So, at the time, was it that there were more people playing on EU West than they were on Garena, or when did you transition? Because now it looked like everyone started off, I think, even including me, we all started off in NA and EU because we didn't know about Garena. So, how did that happen for you, and when did you make that transition?
I mean, we started on EU because we had no care for the ping back then. So yeah, we started on EU basically because the offer was applicable on EU only. So
Ah.
we started for that, and yeah, like eventually once we got hooked to it, then of course we spent money on our IDs, RP, and all the good jazz. But yeah, afterwards, I think one of the original founders of the community, Happytron, Pratik Khatri, him and yeah, Prab Deol, who was used to be the real OG support before he eventually left the scene. These guys were based from Delhi, and they came to our cafe, and yeah, they talked. We talked to them, and yeah, they told us that there's a fledgling scene in Garena, and if you want to play, like if you want to actually play it professionally, or if you're looking for a competitive experience, we should switch. And yeah, it was a hard decision because yeah, like this is a time where like we have spent a lot of money by then on our US IDs, and the whole experience of leveling up once again all the way to 30, and we were all like really really daunted by the prospect that, oh god, what's going to happen, how are we going to do it. So yeah, we eventually shifted. First three of us shifted. There was a major rift in our team because some people didn't want to go and some of us did want to go, and yeah, so three of us shifted, and yeah, I think then eventually everybody migrated over because it's just not fun playing alone. League has never been fun for me playing alone, so we all shifted, and yeah, that's how we started on Garena.
So
I gotta ask, what since you said you started spending, RP, and
Okay, yeah,
what is the first skin that you bought? Do you remember?
I think it was the green Malphite. No, not the green. Sorry, the marble Malphite skin, the white one. That I think that was the first skin I got. Yeah.
ooh.
Used to be my favorite skin.
Like, nice.
Any of these players that you were on US with, are they still playing today, or do we know any of them?
Yeah, I don't know if he still qualifies as playing today, but yeah, Colossus is one of them. So
Wow.
Colossus Varun Gupta is one of the like original players who I started with.
Damn.
My whole relationship with Colossus began from that cafe, and it's been there ever since. So it's been a very, very long time. I've known Colossus. And yeah,
That's
the rest I think everybody has left. Yeah, from that original group I started with.
6 years in the making, dog. That's actually quite nice. I did not know that first. Like, it's pretty interesting. 6 years you've known him from EU West to Garena.
I have known like Varun since his name was School Guy 10,000 on US.
Of disclosure,
I have known.
disclosure happening, boys.
Yeah. Even I had a very cringy name, so I mean I can't really say
You
things to
you can't just say cringy name. Yeah.
You have to tell us. You can't just dangle it in front of us and not tell us what it
of course,
is.
I'm not going to share my cringy name. It was really cringy. It was like Siddharth 2010 or something. It was extremely cringy. In my defense, I had done it. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So in my defense, I wasn't looking to become a pro at League back then. I was looking to have fun with my friends, so I did not care, what my name was going to be. So yeah.
Sit
I
there.
think all of us are guilty of having cringeworthy first email IDs and
I mean, yeah,
all sorts of accounts.
who really cares, right? It's your first, and you're young, 6 years back, damn young. Who cares what your name is? You just want to play with friends. As long as your friends don't judge you, who really cares?
Yeah, I think you're forgiven on that sense. So, like, moving on to the Garena part. So, when did Frost basically became Frost? Because from all this point, I remember getting into the Garena scene, like you said, was an entry for you to competitive Indian League of Legends at least. So, is that the time that you ended up joining NeckBreak, or was it a little later?
Oh no. It was NeckBreak happened much after. The first, I mean, again, like this is kind of funny now, but I started in the Indian League scene in Garena. I started from draft events. I was level 7 back then, and I played in a draft event, and I was playing Lulu. In the whole tournament, I played Lulu, and I played with one of my like really good friends from US, Dread Knight. His name was Rai. So yeah, I played Lulu, and yeah, we got drafted into into the same team. And yeah, back then I played with Fatality, who's again like Fatality is also one of the original players. I don't know if you guys know him or
Yeah,
not. He was one of the very top tier junglers in India back then. He was a member of OG. So yeah, we played in his team and we won the whole thing. It was a pretty fun experience. The first time ever I played in Garena was in a draft event. And yeah, eventually, of course, like we played, and then once we all leveled to 30, then we started taking part in the tournaments. And like we originally came to the whole Garena scene as TX, which was Team Extreme. The Team Extreme had me, TX Frostmourne. It had Hemant, who was one of my closest friends at the time. His name was TX Predator, one of the, in my opinion, greatest junglers India has ever seen. He could have been really, really good. He could have actually been like a pro player, in my opinion. At the time, he was very good. And TX Dread Knight, who was Shibrai, and then TX Colossus. Like TX Colossus, the name which I gave to him, and he's famous for that team is till this date, which is Varun Gupta. And we had Aizaku, who was looking to form a team on Garena. Aizaku is TX, forgetting what his name was. I think it was TX Aizaku only. So yeah, he was my ADC back then, a Draven one trick. He was good on Draven. So yeah, that was our original lineup. And yeah, we started playing once we all leveled up to 30. We started playing and competing, and yeah, after we won Logitech, I think that's when we transitioned to Oblique Gaming, which was one of I think Oblique Gaming, the run it enjoyed of dominance in the Indian scene, no team has enjoyed since.
Wait, are you saying that even EDX didn't enjoy that level of scene that Oblique Gaming did?
I mean, Oblique Gaming was dominating the scene for 2 years, I think, 2.5 years. It was undisputed. Oblique Gaming was undisputed.
I'm curious to know the roster of that team. Like, who are all in it apart from you?
So first Oblique Gaming has, I think, housed all the old players in the scene. Like anybody who is well known today has sometime played in Oblique Gaming. So it's been me, Krankos played on Oblique Gaming. Of course, Brutality has played on Oblique Gaming. Lots and lots of good players have been on that. It used to be the premier team to be on. So back then the roster was me as support. Brutality was our ADC. Yeah, and Predator was jungle, Dread Knight was mid lane, and then forgetting who the top was. I think it was Colossus for a short time, and then he was replaced by Icon, I think. Yeah, Icon, again, one of the members of the Gujarati team which competed against us in the US. So, yeah.
So, like,
we've had a lot of great players in OG. I've played with a lot of good individuals.
Oh, when you say OG Gaming, you mean Oblique Gaming? Okay, because in my mind, I thought the
same.
Yeah, OGs are like the recent OGs that was there.
that the recent OGs is different. It's Rotty's idea. So
yeah,
that's something.
Yeah, when you say OG, now it makes. So is Oblique Gaming where you actually became like the duo of Brutality and Frost? Was this the first team that you guys were together?
Yes, Oblique Gaming was there was first time me and SK or me and Brutality played first time together was in a properly played together was in a show match back then against Singapore players, and it was really high players, and we played a show match against them. And that was the first time me and him played together in a professional setting. But after that, I think once we shifted after TX won Logitech and we got offered a contract by Oblique Gaming, that's when me and Brutality started playing officially together. We'd been playing duo queuing before that. The impact Brutality has had on my career cannot be underestimated, of course. It has been a privilege to support him. I cannot state it enough. I can't put it in words what effect he has had on my personal development as a supporter. Yeah.
Damn.
So that was when we started. Oblique Gaming was when me and Brutality started.
Talking about Oblique Gaming, is this the point where you said Brutality and Frost became a duo, right? So tell me about that. How did that begin, and how did that become famous? Kaise hua? How did that happen?
So Brutality, I think to date is the most famous player in the league scene. He's also one of the admins right now. But Brutality is Brutality because he inspired a whole generation of players, which is something no player in the league scene can speak of, not even me, because Brutality was so ahead of everyone in terms of his skill level. it was strange to see. It was terrifying to see almost, because Brutality, when he started, he was dominating to the point it was not even funny, because it was just scary to see someone who was so good, because all of us had come from our own servers, and everybody, हम लोग सोचते थे कि, all of us used to think, oh god, we are the real deal, we are the shit, we are going to win, we are going to dominate. And then there was this player. First of all, Oblique Gaming was back then did not have us, so it was very, very dominating, and we used to think that OG is this team which can never be beaten. And that time Brutality was the ADC for Oblique Gaming, and then he once again, like, once we beat Brutality's team in Logitech, which was again one of the milestone tournaments for League. That's when me and him started playing as a bot lane together, and yeah, it again, like, we grew together. Let's just say that we the whole concept of synergy, people looking out for each other in IRL synergy. Let's just say that through the game, we grew because we were both very fine tuned, because we both play very aggressive in lane. He does as well, we do as well. Typically, till then, all the bot lanes in India were just looking to farm up, scale up, and just try the luck out in team fights and how it works out. But me and him, I think, yeah, we changed the landscape of how bot lane was played in India. And I think, yeah, this is something which I have a lot of pride in, because we never played to farm. We still never play to farm. If we ever play together, we play to kill. We try to kill the other people so many times that they become utterly useless, and yeah, we snowball off there. And it grew, like, the synergy grew to a point where me and him, I think we don't need to effectively communicate, like, not so much, because we just know what the other guy is going to do. So it was something why am I saying was, it is pure gold in terms of synergy.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
kind
that's
of intense, but yeah, we dominated, like, the league scene, at least from bot lane perspective. Like, Oblique Gaming, a very big reason for our success was the bot lane dominance. And this is where people are ganking us, 4-mans, 3-mans, it's coming everywhere. People are going on ham on us, and they're trying to shut us down. And we had some very capable players, like, who were taking advantage in the solo lanes, who were carrying from there. But yeah, the legend which he was, and he still is, I think, yeah, it's the signature, even right now, come a tournament game, and if he locks in Wayne, every team will think 3 times, oh god, look who's playing Wayne. It's just the aura of Brutality. There's nothing else that can be said. Like, yeah, me and him formed certain combos which were very iconic and which used to hurt. So Nami Wayne, one of the very iconic things which we were known for. And yeah, Nami Wayne, Lucian Brom, and then Leona and Jinx. All of these, kill heavy comps. And yeah, we used to just play those, and yeah, just used to snowball from there.
That's the thing. I think even to this date, the legacy of Brutality and Frost is very, very popular at this point. I think it was only recently where I think you guys don't play anymore, but till the point I think your bot lane was always feared. At least when I also joined, my nimble team, RvX Gaming, would play against Brutality and Frost, and my bot lane would be like, I can't survive this lane for 5 minutes. Like, this is something that we've heard a lot, and I think it's because of not just your skill, but it's also the way you guys play together, the synergy that you guys have.
Exactly, because we never ever played it the conventional way. Me and him, we would enter lane, and 3 minions we kill, and then we just start hitting the opponents. We just do not care how. It's just all about that level 2 snowball, level 3 snowball, whatever our spike was. And by God's grace, we were both mechanically proficient throughout the years. Yeah, I mean, again, we were very mechanically proficient, and it got to a point that my job in the bot lane is just to, enable him, give him the information, and make him just concentrate on his mechanics alone. So I would tell him, gangs are coming from here, this skill shot is up, this skill shot is down, be careful, this can happen, this can happen. He would process it and execute it himself. So I was like, I just had to hit the bind, and the rest everything he will do. I had that blind. We have that blind faith going on between us. Like we know the other person will back us up. In case we don't, then we learn from that and we move on. So yeah, I mean, we never played it the conventional way. So that is why I think we were. I think it inspired again the next whole crop of support players and AD players. Like some of them still play like how we used to back then because it was just aggression, aggro, which we had to tone down because once the meta changed and 5 people started coming every 2-3 minutes, and yeah, we changed it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we've always preferred to play.
So how
I
did
must say, listening to Frost reminisce about, that blind faith that he used to have with his ADC reminded me a little bit of, one of my NA senpais. And like as a support player who went to mid, I think we always try to find uh, this ADC who we have that sort of connection with, where like
Exactly.
both of us commit at the same time and both of us like hold back at the same time. So I have to ask, what were like maybe 2 or 3 highlight moments of Brutality and Frost?
Highlight moments for us. I don't know. There is this video on YouTube. We get a 2v5 penta in the battle pit. It was
I
like
have
the
seen
enemy
that
was
video.
invading.
Yeah, I have seen that video. Yeah.
We were doing
Wait
Baron and
till
then
we
we
get
had to
to
turn the
the
fight, and yeah, he gets a penta. We were playing our signature Nami Vayne. Nami Vayne was against us. It was, and back then there used to be only 3 bands, mind you, not 5 bands.
Yeah.
So it was very hard because one of us used to get the other champions. There were literally scenarios where people would just ban both against us, just to maybe force us on different picks. And once the Morgana came into the picture, it became extremely hard because now he can play everything and I have that Morgana extra. So if you ban Morg and Nami, then basically you're giving him Vayne. And if you ban Morg, Nami, Vayne, because these 3 bans were also been used against us for a long, long time. Morg, Nami, Vayne, just to have us on certain champions which are easier to hold on. Because on those champions, everybody knew that after a certain time, it's not going to matter who you are, what you have. we would be able to carry. So again, like it's not like we have specific iconic moments. It's more like it's like we were very consistent with our play. So we were always trending. We almost always winning regardless of the meta, which is something which can be. One iconic moment which I can remember is in a tournament he took teleport on Ezreal, ADC. Yes, that is one tournament. This is very old. This is like 4 years back or something. He took teleport on Ezreal just so he could rush his tier faster, and we almost lost that. but yeah, it was. I think it's something which nobody will remember. I think yeah, it's one of the very iconic for me. At least I still tease him sometimes about that.
So why did you guys end up leaving Oblique Gaming if it was going so well and you said for 2 years your tournaments you guys were winning back and forth? Like what led to you guys leaving Oblique Gaming?
I think the owner of Oblique Gaming he gave up his interest in gaming.
क्या हुआ?
Uncle Samir Hussain was,
एक second.
and yeah. So once he left, Oblique Gaming didn't really stick around. Yeah, we eventually disbanded. And yeah, we still continued, but it was never the same again. Like we still won. We won a lot of tournaments even after Uncle leaving. I guess we played for another 6 to 8 months, I think, under OG. Yeah, eventually, yeah, there were some minor disagreements here and there, and Oblique Gaming eventually disbanded. So yeah, the synergy never went anywhere. But yeah, it was just I think maybe he was looking for something else, and everybody was looking for something else, and yeah.
So it was like neck.
That's just how it.
So
Sorry.
was NeckBreak like this new thing that was pretty good on the table? Because like I heard a lot about NeckBreak. Like if someone who like was joined a little late in the scene there's only 2 teams I heard about a lot. There's something called NeckBreak and then later EDX, and I don't know, but I've always heard this team being called a lot. So just like
Okay, so
what is
NeckBreak used to
NeckBreak?
be our primary opponents when we were Oblique Gaming.
Ah, yeah.
NeckBreak had Evil Dead, NeckBreak had Zarkus, NeckBreak had Cranko at the time, and NeckBreak had my 2 old buddies from TX who were Predator, who was Hemant, and they had Redmond for mid lane. It was really, really stacked. And also they had Boogie, Sid Joshi. He used to be really well known back then. He was top player. Yeah, it was also a very stacked roster in terms of talent, and these guys used to be our primary opponents. Like we never really got the chance because they were only existing for like 3 months. That particular league roster, and we never got a chance to play them, except for in one tournament in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, we played them. But yeah, it was, there's always, when there are two very strong teams in the scene, there's always that, aura that, these teams, if they ever face each other, oh my God, what will happen? And yeah,
So they were the hype
that was
matchups.
NeckBreak
Yeah,
first.
both of
Yeah,
you were like the hyped up teams at this point.
exactly. So
I
NeckBreak
see.
was this, and then NeckBreak also eventually disbanded because of that particular roster disbanded because of some certain issues, and then it reformed later on with me in it. That
Got it.
was This was like I think 2 years back. I think
Was Brutality with you in Neckbreak?
he
Or
was not. Brutality had gone, and Brutality had formed EDX then, and yeah, that was Brutality. I think yeah, Brutality was in EDX, and yeah, I had formed after Oblique Gaming. I was in a team called Anarchy, which I had formed, and yeah, Anarchy was a bunch of like basically a bunch of very developing talents which I had chosen, and yeah, it had Redemar in it, UNQ, he is very
oh,
famous. It had Panda in it, top lane, again very famous. People who are very very well known, and yeah, we had Cookies Love Story, Mansoor for mid lane, and yeah, we had Kranko in it as well afterwards. Yeah, and we had this thing, Ali Hajiani, Distinct again, one of the
distinct.
premier, yeah, Distinct was one of the premier junglers back then, and yeah, this Anarchy eventually ended up becoming Neckbreak, and we added two more players to the roster, and yeah, that was what Neckbreak eventually came to be.
So like I've noticed this a lot, Frost, and even to this point, like why do you think people have so many roster changes? Like I mean, it's happened a lot in the past. Like now, still think maybe there is some stability. Like names change, but people probably remain the same. But one thing I've noticed in the past, like roster changes happen like almost. It seems like a weekly thing. Like why would that happen? Why do you think every time people would just disband and form new teams? There was derailed in the middle as well, and EDX, and like you said, Oblique Gaming. There was Flux Gaming. Like I've heard of so many team names, and some of them had different people, but some of the people are the same. So what was this thing? What do you think? Like a lot of shuffles would happen so much.
To be honest with you guys, like original rosters used to last a lot longer. Flux lasted very long. They picked up players, sure, but yeah, Oblique Gaming also picked up a lot of players, left a lot of players, but yeah, I think the whole thing is it comes down to once if you're losing tournaments and that roster is not working out, and not everybody might be comfortable playing in that team setup, or
Ah,
maybe trying that team setup over and over again. So maybe that's why of course I can't really go into the details of it because I was never in those teams, because I am someone who has always tried for a consistent team. I cannot be on this high functioning 2 months like a tournament at a time team, because
yeah.
it's really really hard to coordinate. Oblique Gaming again, very long. I stayed on it for almost 2 years. Same for NeckBreak, same for EDX. I think any team I played for, this is something which I think you can consider it as a tip for beginners, or you can consider it as a tip for anybody who's in the scene right now. If you want to improve, you need to work on your personal place, sure, but apart from that, you need to stick together as a team. I cannot emphasize this enough, because unless give your synergy a chance, you're never going to win in league, especially more so now. It's never been a solo player's game. It will, and it will always be a team game. And right now, like eventually with everything, with the gradual change in league over the years, it's shifted from individual performance to a team performance. So now if you are not on the same page as your teammates, you are not going to win. And it's a simple, like it's a gospel truth. You are just not going to win unless. So consistency in terms of with the people you play with, the people you practice with, it's very very important, and I can't stress that enough. This is something I need to say to all the youngsters in the scene. It is very very important. Changing your teams after every single tournament, on the raw mechanical skill will help you, but it won't land you a top 3 finish. I'm going to be very, very, blunt and maybe to a certain point rude here. But yeah, if you want to win, you have to work on that team cohesion. You can make one or two changes to your team in terms of substitutions, sure, but stick to a roster. Try sticking, and I guarantee if you guys have decent synergy together, you will go very, very far in tournaments. The teams who are able to practice together on a consistent basis are the only teams which are good. That's just how it is.
Makes complete sense, you know. I mean, something I think we all of everyone should look at. Like, just to add to that is, I do think that, you know, it's good that teams stay for longer, because personally, as a player myself, I've seen that the longer I've stayed on a team, like this energy has developed over time, and you know the understanding has come over time, and it's when you stick beyond tournaments is when you actually improve as a team, and you know, not having tournament teams is probably not the way to go. You know, Frost, like EDX. Why did you not join EDX when Brutality was in EDX, or when did you end up finally joining them?
Why did I not join EDX? Because EDX had Evil Dead that time.
Oh,
So,
okay, you learned that
and
time.
Brutality and Evil Dead were also one of the brilliant duos in India. And these guys were the ones who, got challenger in the solo queue as well. Like Evil Dead was a complete, hook maniac. One of the I think greatest supports Indian scene will ever see. I mean, if he were to come back right now, play for 6 months, he would be as good as anybody else. He was that good. So yeah, even EDX had Evil Dead back then, and back then that NeckBreak and that EDX version, more than playing against each other in tournaments, there was this huge race for challenger going on behind the scenes.
Oh,
There was no direct confrontation. Challenger in ranked 5 teams, and
got
it
it.
was a very big deal back then. So yeah, they were doing it, and then we formed it. I think the announcement was made on my birthday, and then 2 days after, even we started grinding it. It's because we added Roman to our roster, and then for the next 1 month, it was a complete slugfest. Like I think that was the first time two premier teams have actually invested so much time into team play and trying to play, and it was really nice to see.
And both of you guys managed to reach
Yes, we
Challenger as
did
well.
do it. We did do it, and it was a very, very good moment because India had like 15 to 16 challenger players.
Wow, that's pretty
Awesome.
impressive.
That's actually awesome.
Wow,
Then,
that's reminiscent of like the space race between USSR and the United States.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of that. Really, really, really nice analogy because yeah, it was that. It was just. I wouldn't say it was Cold War, because people used to talk amongst each other.
It's the
Not
space
cold.
race, right? Who
Yeah,
will
it
send
is.
the first man on the moon?
And my God, was it like heated at times? We would win, they would win, we would lose, or they might win, and it was all going up, down, up, down. It was quite something.
I can imagine you guys must be meeting each other in the rank 5 queue sometimes.
No, this is very nice. There was this tactic understanding amongst us.
Oh,
The other person never queued, and one of the person was in the queue. It was something very respectable. All things
buddies.
considered. We never queued against each other.
Yeah, so
And
basically Indian भाई भाई साथ साथ में climb करेंगे. That's the idea that you guys.
it was not so much as bye-bye, it was like if one of us actually lost against the other in that setup, it would be disastrous for team morale. We never queued.
Yeah.
So,
ये तुम्हारा इलाका ये मेरा इलाका
हाँ, अगर हार गए तो फिर क्या होगा? फिर
सुनना
क्या
पड़ता
बोलेंगे
है.
एक दूसरे को? नहीं बोलेंगे क्या एक दूसरे को? सीधी बात है. तो फिर it's better that we never. It's nice.
Interestingly enough. So, moving on, like when did you end up joining EDX, and what was the reason for that to
Yeah,
happen?
after NeckBreak disbanded, we got Challenger, and NeckBreak didn't work out, unfortunately, which is a shame because personally, I think NeckBreak is one of the most. That version of NeckBreak was one of the most talented rosters India could have seen. More so than the talent on the roster, it was people willing to work together in a team environment, which is that kind of a team environment is perfect if you want to actually compete at a competitive level in League of Legends. People open to criticism, people always looking to improve. It was an actual team environment. We had our share of fights amongst ourselves, we had disagreements, but yeah, it was a family, and nothing else can be said.
That's
It
actually
was a love.
nice.
NeckBreak was a lovely experience. What NeckBreak was back then was what I tried to emulate in every possible way in Frost Academy, and I think I succeeded. Because judging by what the dynamic they have between each other, it was something which we used to have back then. So yeah, it was something. It was a very model team in that aspect, yeah, and we had very talented players. So yeah.
That's really nice, and I think that's the kind of environment every team should look to foster. But it's not easy
Yeah, and
to do
once
so, right? I'm
exactly
guessing.
once Neckbreak disbanded, so yeah, and then I think I went back to EDX. Yeah, that's how I ended up rejoining EDX and rejoining Brutality, which was another era altogether.
Yeah, I think that's the era I remember pretty faintly, maybe because I was new, but I remember like since the longest time, EDX, with your roster with Brutality, Nabu, Distinct, Zarkis, Fufu, I think as well, like, and mid
Kaka was
lane
also there.
Kaka.
Mhm.
So, like, tell me about EDX and how did you, come to join them, and how did EDX went on to become one of the most like dominant teams for the longest time in the LoL Indian scene?
EDX was a bunch of friends who give each other a very hard time, but who will defend each other to the death to an outsider. It was something like that, which is a really lovely dynamic, to be honest. And we had the best players in every single role back then. I think in terms of sheer individual talent, we just outclassed people back then just by the basis of the people we had, the players we had, and how those players interacted with each other. It was a sheer pleasure to play in that team. Yeah, it's just the synergy. It's like what synergy you have with other people. What synergy again? And it's consistency, right? EDX went again. It lasted 2 years. So this is just another example for that major lesson. You need to stick together and give some faith to your teammates. If you have talent, you are bound to grow, and that's what happened. EDX completely dominated the scene for a long time because the amount of sheer talent, individual talent, I can't stress that enough. It's really, really, really big in that case.
Yeah, I remember
Right.
like EDX in every tournament and every match was basically a 2-0 or a 3-0 in EDX's favor. So, like that was a dominant team. And was that the time for us, like, because, like when I joined the community or whenever anyone joined the community that you were there, like it was a given that Frost is the undisputed support player of the thing, is probably the macro genius, as you have been, in a way known as the one of the most mechanically intelligent players. Sorry, not macro, like intelligent players as well. So, like, where did you think this thing became to be? Because you used to win, yes, but what was the reason why? Everyone that I would end up meeting was like, okay, Frost is one of the smartest players in the game, at least in the Indian scene. So, like, where did you think that reputation of yours started to develop? Because
The reputation or whatever this is comes from my very, very uh, generous teammates who are willing to it, first of all, it stems from Brutality, because yeah, Brutality is he listened to my calls. So judging from that, because we had success with my calls, I think that's how it originated. The fact that I was able to play certain champions well gave me that mechanical thing. I've never considered myself a very good mechanical player, but yeah, from because I knew how to play the map, and more importantly than that, something which I influenced directly in the scene was because I was able to play the draft. That was how I think whatever status I had or whatever things I gained, because I was the primary shot caller for I think almost all my teams I've played in. Because I I thought it was my personal responsibility as a support, to support my team in a way that they can focus on their laning, and I can give them all the data and where to go and how to go and how to facilitate things on the map, because I have more free time than my carries do. They have to focus on CSing, they have to focus on trading. So let's just make the job easier for them while making plays myself. So that's how I think. What I don't think I was the best, but yeah, people give me that tag. So
yeah, I mean, would you guys have had
It's
anything to add to that? Yeah.
in a team that the shot caller be support or a jungler or whoever the top laner or any role. In order of preference, can you like?
I mean, again, this all of this depends on what kind of players you have on your team. Okay, there are certain players
Of course.
who are very mechanically gifted, but they are not able to, convey in time, or they're not able to think very fast in terms of map play. So then, of course, they can't be shot callers. So it depends. If you are a player who is able to play the game, and who is able to plan ahead in terms of map, or in terms of where people should go, and if you have good knowledge, then you should be a shot caller. The first and the most, if like the first tenet of any shot caller is communication. You should know how to communicate with your team. It is very important, and communication is not just blind saying things over and over. It's effective communication. It is communicating things which are relevant to the game, which help your team. And if you are able to do that, I think that is the first tenet every shot caller should have. After that comes, again, the trust your teammates have in you, because as a shot caller, you are in a very dangerous spot, because you are making the main decisions for your team. So if you lose, the main responsibility for a bad call is on you, and you have to learn to live with that. Nobody will shot call 100% right. It's not going to happen. That's not how league works. That's not how basic maths works. So yeah, you will be wrong sometimes, but yeah, the the, the more probability you reduce of being wrong, the better you get at shot calling. So you have to have effective communication, of course, a certain degree of leadership, because if you don't have a certain degree of leadership, it's not going to work out. And yeah, you need to be on the top of your game yourself for you to be shot, because the only way you can order other people on your team is when you are doing everything in your own role perfectly. That is what I believe. I might be wrong, but this is something which I have always believed. If you are a shot caller, then you better be playing your own role to the level which is required, and then you can shot call. Because like it's all well and good. Of course, because supports have more time on the map to look at the mini map than other people, they are naturally prone to shot calling. It's not a preference. Of course, if you're a mid laner, if you can communicate faster, go ahead, be the shot caller. As we've seen in TSM's cases, many times Bjergsen has stepped up to be a shot caller. If you're an ADC, you're able to convey while doing everything which an ADC has to do. Go ahead, be the shot caller. Again, TSM's example, double lift. So more and more shot calling is becoming a team thing, because everybody just has to convey information in this meta. But yeah, so for being a primary shot caller, I think it's better that junglers and supports do it, because they are able to influence the map more. So you have time to roam, you have time to gank, and you basically control the vision, which is the most important thing in league apart from minions. The people who control the vision are the people who are able to make the plays, and yeah, that's how it works. So it's preferable that they do it, but it's not a fact set in stone. Anybody can do it.
This podcast I think is not going to just be useful for people who want to know about you, Frost, but I think it'll also be useful for people getting to know tips in general, because I think there's a lot that can be learned from what you just said. And in general, like I think that's where I feel there's a lot of information that you have to share about stuff as well. uh, just to summarize the discussion so far, we now that we know about the whole thing, the thing that I want to ask now, the last tournament that you played in January 2018 was the Indian Gamers IGC, basically Indian Gaming IGC, Indian
Yeah,
Gamers
yeah.
Club Rising Stars LOL Cup. So I don't understand what prompted this decision, because as far as I knew, like Frost was someone who has been in the scene for the longest time, probably brought it up with the scene, built the scene in his own way, and I mean I'm legit curious to know as to what prompted the fact that you wanted to retire from competitive, and what happens after the retirement as well.
Okay. Retirement was a combination of multiple factors. It was not something I'd been thinking for a while, and yeah, I just decided to step up and take that decision. Stuff had been going on in my personal life, which I will not obviously share here, but I was not comfortable dealing it with, and while playing. And also, I think, and this is what I personally believe, that my level of play was falling a little bit. And if I can't, contribute to a team I play in at the highest level, at least at the level I set for myself, I don't think I'm being useful. So that's why I decided to step down. Because, it's just it's more of a decision because I've always believed, at least if you play something or if you play a role, try to be the best at it. Whether you actually happen to become it or not is a different matter. But yeah, you chase to be the best. And yeah, I think I was the best for a certain time. But I thought my play was falling, or I it was a lot of things which was happening off scene as well. So I just wasn't able to, handle it at that time. So I left, and I think yeah, that was one of it. What happens after?
Yeah, that's the thing. What happens now?
What happens now? I think I'll concentrate on admin all India. I think that's one of the primary responsibilities. Something which has always been my motive, and one of my goals to grow the scene, and one day have one player at least play on that international stage. I think if I am able to help that player, or if I am able to contribute to the growth of that particular player, I think yeah, that is what my objective was.
We
So
all
this,
do. We all do.
yeah, I think for me,
We all want that.
it is one of my, it will always be one of my dreams, because once you reach a certain age, you realize it's not going to happen for you. Everyone, all of us, we start the game thinking that we all dream of being on that LCS stage, or being on that world stage, and yeah, somewhere we know we might not reach it, because maybe we don't have the family conditions, or maybe we don't have, maybe we are just born a little too early, and we are old now, so lots of things are there. But yeah, you always have that dream, and for me the dream is just an extension. If I'm not going to be there, because if the time has run out for me, then of course somebody else, if I can guide or help that player in any way reach that milestone, I think it's a victory for me also. So that is what, again, my goal has always been with regards to the, at least in India.
One of the things I can definitely say is that the community will definitely miss your competitive side of things. I mean, I think one of the premier things is always going against for us, and I think I guess like you are helping teams become good, and I think that's a great thing to do. And then we do have a lot of potential in our community that we need to sort of dig through and find. So
Oh, for sure.
hopefully in the next stint of your thing with league is that basically we are able to do that and help the community get to the point. So that's
And some
actually
of the players, like, sorry again to
no,
interrupt
good,
you,
good,
but yeah,
good, 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 good.
some of the players, like some young players which we have, if they have the right direction, if they have the right motivation, there is, I think, no reason why they should not be able to compete at the highest levels. And yeah, I think we have some serious talent in our community. But yeah, again, it has to be fostered, it has to be honed, and of course, it has to be directed in an effective fashion. You cannot just, the talent is there, but unless you do something with it, or unless you productively work with it, it's not going to manifest itself in any way. So yeah, we have some very very talented players. Yeah, I hope they take it seriously, and it's very hard in the in the community we live in the basically in the cultural fabric we live in, to have that thing going. But yeah, again, the quest continues, and maybe we'll succeed one day.
India is growing in its community, and league is a growing game in India. And hopefully with enough exposure we're able to attract the right talent and help them nurture and grow, like you said, Frost. So this actually has been a really really fun discussion about basically from where you started, and I think it's something that not a lot of us know. And just listening to the story, I think from my side at least, I absolutely enjoyed, because there's so many things that I did not know that came about, and about the history in a way, because talking to you felt like talking about the Indian history, the LOL Indian scene in general, as to where it started and how it became.
All right, so now we're gonna have a rapid fire round with a special guest, Siddharth Frost Ranjan.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, I'm excited for this. I hope you are. You're not allowed to think for more than 3 seconds before answering questions. All right,
Okay.
so let's go. The first question: if you were stranded on an island with only one champion from League of Legends, who would it be and why?
Morgana. Because
I
Why?
saw that coming.
she has the devilish charm going for her. She's a devil, and yeah,
Yeah,
like a fallen angel. The concept appeals to me a lot. So
yeah.
Morgana.
Wink, wink, devilish
Alright.
charm, wink, wink.
We all know why you like have that Halloween Morgana skin Bishi.
Oh yeah, that. I also have a devilish charm.
But that way, then the Sona skins will sell for a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're aiming for
Yeah.
that.
This splash I'll sell them.
Alright. The next question.
Okay, next.
Rank these 5 mid laners in order of their
Oh
potential.
my god.
Yep. Okay.
In order of their what?
Kaka?
Potential.
Order of their potential. Kaka,
Alright.
Tha, INF Sam, Goku,
Okay.
and
Uh-huh. And?
Shiki.
Oh god, this is some difficult list. Okay, potential. Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
ranking them potential. Okay, not
Yes.
what their actual place.
You can't stall.
Kaka,
You
number
can't stall.
not all in this. Kaka number one for sure. He's very good, like miles ahead of the rest. I think Shiki. Okay, then Joda, Goku, and who's the last one?
INF Sam.
Anasan.
Alright. Next question. Urgot, Tariq, and Varys. Rate in order of hotness.
Urgot for sure. That's too hot for anybody to imagine. And then, yeah, of course, Tariq for the pink skin, and then Varys. Yeah, the other two are just way too hot for Varys to compete. So.
Wow. You should note that Varys had 3 people inside of him, so
So Urgot is just too much.
I have to agree with that.
God has 6
Okay. So next question. Kill, marry, and bang. Which of these players? Brutality,
Oh God.
Redemar, and Captain Kirk.
What? I can't kill any of these people. It's just too
You
much.
have to,
I'd
yeah.
marry brutality because
Oh,
we've been a pair for so long, so might as well just marry him and be done with it. Bang, what? Bang Redemar?
so that just leaves
Like kind of a Kappa pride moment there, but yeah, Bang Redemar, and yeah, I can't kill Kurt's very dear to me, so yeah, I'm not going to kill him. Sorry.
short end of the stick.
yeah.
Alright. EDX at the height of their career or OG at the height of their career? Pick one.
EDX. EDX is just much more well-rounded as a EDX.
Alright. Kaka versus Panda, who has the better future?
Future, obviously, Panda because he has age on his side. Yeah, because he has age on his side. Kaka doesn't lack to Panda in mechanics, but Panda has age on his side.
Alright.
We have to keep in mind that Panda is really young, right? So,
Yeah. He's just what, 19?
exactly. So, like, and he is like, if he's rivaling him now, then of course. It's not like Kaka is very old or something, but just by sheer maths, I think Panda wins. For the future question, yeah, I think Panda.
Yeah. Alright. Who's the most underrated Indian League of Legends player as of now?
And as of now,
I mean,
Yeah.
in your entire history,
According
you
to
could
you.
say. Yeah.
underrated, I think. Underrated. I don't know this. Underrated, I think Captain Kirk. People are not giving him enough credit as he deserves. What I think. He's someone who has really worked on himself. He's sleeper OP, just to say that. So he's going to burst soon. Like he's going to show his true potential or colors as we move on to future tournaments. I think people are really sleeping on how good he is, in my opinion.
Alright. Who's the most overrated player?
That's probably me.
Oh, you can't take yourself.
You
That
cannot have
doesn't count.
diplomatic answers.
no,
You cannot have diplomatic
I'm sorry,
answers
there
here.
was there was no contract before it, so I'm sorry. You guys can fix that in the later stages. I get a free pass because I got the loophole in the first place.
I dodged the bullet.
Yeah, Smarty Frost. Alright, we'll let you go first. We'll let you go.
I do not play the map for nothing. It's my job to find these loopholes.
Alright.
Don't worry, one of these days we'll sneak that out of you somehow.
Yeah,
No, you will never sneak that thing out of me.
that means you have
Accidentally,
an. That means.
power goes off a lot in India as well, so you'll never sneak that out of me.
All right.
All right. And the final question: if you could make a dream team, like a fantasy squad,
Oh,
with you playing support,
oh my god.
any League of Legends player, past, present,
Indian. Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
Indian, who would it?
Okay. Indian players?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Panda for top, Kaka for mid, because yeah, just amount of sheer potential and talent. Jungle, I think I have to. I'm going to give a shout out to both my boys. I think Zakas and Wisting. I love them. So, yeah, I think both of them. And ADC will have to be Brutality. I can't take any other person. For
Basically
me,
EDX.
Brutality is just different. It's basically, yeah, I know Panda was never in EDX. So Panda would have been in EDX, it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well.
I think that, yeah, that's
All right.
Well done, dude.
Yeah. Quick answers. We like. We like.
Quick answers. Yep.
All right, guys. So let's have a discussion about patch 8.7 and uh, coming back to the biggest change is Irelia right now. She has been reworked. I absolutely like her. Frost, what are your thoughts about her?
I think she's sleeper OP, to be honest. She was hotfixed the first day she got released. Insane damage, insane mobility, and yeah, I think she's going to be a sure shot. We will be seeing her in competitive games because the only matchup I think which properly beats her is Darius and nothing else. So I'm pretty sure that she's going to be sleeper OP.
Yep, I agree as well. Like I've played against her and she seems pretty decent in lane and just scales up pretty strong. Like it's hard to deal with her once she gets her Triforce as well. So I'm kind of curious to see how that works out. Moving on to other patch changes, Gragas got buffs to his Q and his W AP ratios have been upped. What do you think is that gonna make him viable in the mid or the jungle maybe, Frost? What do you think?
Mid lane, I mean, not so much. Gragas is some definite problems unless you actually one shot the other person. AP Gragas is very hard to play. Same goes for the jungle AP version as well. So unless you are able to like completely obliterate someone, which is possible, it's not like, but you have to get very fed of that, and it's not going to happen in comp games. So I don't think he's going to come back aggressively, in the competitive version at least. Solo queue, sure, go ahead and you might see, AP Gragas is showing up once or twice in your games.
Alright, fair enough. Moving on to Elise, small buffs to Q and CD cooldowns in E. I'm not really sure that's gonna help her out much. She needs bigger buffs, don't you think, for her to come back in the meta first?
I mean, yeah, for solo queue, I think she might be back. Korea has been playing her a little bit as well, but yeah, early jungle she has always been amongst. At least she's a champion. If you buffer too much, you're going to insta come back into the meta because the ganking potential for an Elise and the tower diving potential, basically in the hands of a good player, Elise is extremely extremely potent because you can go the tanky AP version of it, you can go full glass cannon, and you can set up a lot of snowballs happening. So it's good. It's a good buff for her for solo queue, I think. Again, but I think for competitive, she needs a little more than this.
I agree. Meanwhile, Hecarim has some small buffs. I wouldn't even want to go into that. Ivan has some bug fixes. It's a random Q buff to Karthus by a factor of 10.
His increase in damage on his Q, so it'll punish the enemy more for having a Karthus who can land his Qs. But it's interesting to note that Karthus is one of the least played champions in the game. Like his pick rate is abysmally low. The buff does increase his Q damage output. I'm not sure how much he'll be played more because of that.
I mean, he's good. Like certain matchups, Karthus, he can come back for sure.
Yeah.
Because the mid to high diamond players, master players, they're able to really utilize Karthus. Of course, Karthus is one of the champions very popular in Korea as well. It's one of the rare servers where he gets a lot of plays happening on him. So yeah, I think it's a happy buff for Karthus players if you play. It's hard to play that champ effectively, but the people who do play it will be very, really, really happy with the early buffs.
Considering her Q, actually, now that I think about it, her Q does act like an auto attack because people don't auto in lane, just use
Yeah,
Q.
exactly, and it
10
will help a
damage,
lot
right?
with the last hits as well. Yeah.
10
because
gives her a lot more wave clear, a lot more poke damage. So yeah, I mean, it could be interesting to see if Karthus gets back in the meta. I always loved his ultimate as well. You know, you die and you just use your ultimate, no one can stop you.
especially with the ultimate hat, mana flow has been, nerfed a little
Nerfed
bit.
as well.
And
True.
people do take ultimate hat and, that ult cooldown, that global ult, that team fight presence which a Karthus has. A late game Karthus is basically like a wave. You don't really care even if you die, but you're going to be in there with your defile open, giving loads of damage, and at the end of it, you just pop it out with an ult or Requiem on top. So yeah, Karthus is a very potent champion, if you know what you're doing with it. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a good time to be a Karthus player.
I like the buffs because they still make him weak in the early game, but at least he has more trading patterns in lane
No, the
to
buff,
fight
the
back
buff is early game a bit so that he's able to, get through the lanings as a little
a little
better.
better. Get to his mid to late game, insanely strong, fighting scene fit as well.
Another welcome change is actually the Lux ultimate changes. So
I just feel great when they keep buffing her for God knows what reason, and now they just up the refund on kill.
basically, as a Lux main, I would say that it's better to have more snipes, and that's what essentially this buff does, is give you opportunities to snipe more, and that could help her snowball much better in lane. And with Garena, which has like a heavy meta of these Yasuo and Zed and Zoe mids, I think having a chance to snowball like that is really good for Lux. Also, given the fact that she does abuse the cooldown reduction on her ult quite often with the runes, having a rune that can give her even more CDR on her ultimate is just another way of like getting her to be more viable in this season, to be honest. Because and what I particularly like is her change with regard to her final spark dealing damage 1.75 seconds after the death of someone. If final spark has dealt damage to it, then she also gets a cooldown reduction, which is pretty cool because that sort of increases her team fight potential. Because I've experienced a lot of team fights with Lux where I land my full combo, I land my ult, and then eventually, there's a cleanup crew, either a Yi or a Caitlyn or someone who like just finishes them off, and I don't get the cooldown reset on that despite having dealt a lot of damage. So I think that's a really welcome change, that she does get a cooldown reduction as long as the final spark has done damage till 1.75 seconds after she casts it.
And also on her, if she lands an ult now, she doesn't have to execute with the ult. If she just lands an ult and someone dies within 1.75 seconds, she still gets the cooldown refund. So, like, what do you think, Frost? Like, I'm loving it, but I don't know what's the right mentality behind doing all these things.
Lux's main problem is again it's a it's a very strange kind of a champion because it's supposed to act as a long range mage, but you can't proc your passive, right? In
Yes.
later on team fights. So basically, in the later stages of the game, you are playing a champion which has no passive at all to contribute. So I think the main problem of Lux happens to be there and not in the 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 cooldowns. It's always been low. So yeah, of course, cooldown refund 50%, like 30%, 40%, for the first two rounds. Sure, it's very good. But then for lower elo, I think for higher elo as you go, the main problem remains the same. He has no mobility. And once her flashes down, people can pin her down extremely easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think those are the problems where people need to be focusing on in order to fix her. But yes, this is a good change for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
I will
like,
go for ARAM, I guess.
it's even it's broken on ARAM. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like the changes myself. Like, and I completely agree with you. Like, the passive of Lux is counterintuitive, and if they are looking to make Lux into some sort of viable, I think they should probably look to do something of the passive, because her current role as an artillery mage from the back end is not working out as well because her passive is non-existent. So I mean, otherwise I like the fact that not she has certain traits that like a Xerath or Ziggs don't have. Like, she has a shield and she has a snare that can proc on more people. So, and she has burst as well. But the fact that her passive is basically useless unless you're really close to someone, which kind of counteracts who she is something that probably Riot needs to look at. But I like the buff so far, and I, as a Luxman, I'm just like, keep them coming, baby. I love it. Malphite, Alright, random buffs to his E, zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.6 AP ratio. His base AD got increased by zero point 0.7 per point, like 675 per level, and his R cooldown got decreased significantly. So, uh, that kind of makes him stronger in the early game, right? What do you think about those changes, Frost?
I think you can actually start an AP item at this point.
Ooh,
You
AP
could go, you can,
Malphite.
no, yeah, of course. For AP Malphite, but though you need to max Q, right? So that you can't go Q max at top lane because the opponent is just too
Yeah, right.
beefy for you to burst out. But yeah, for I think with, even with the increase in ability power and adding that ratio to the E, I think you can start. You can actually go a raw first item.
Yep.
People will have to test it. People will have to see. But yeah, it's a welcome change, sure. And later on, the buffs to his ultimate as well, 10 seconds on rank 2 and 20 seconds of rank 3, it's gonna help him, sure.
I agree.
It's basically that.
Yeah, and it makes his burst combos better on AP Malphite because now his E is gonna do a lot more when he lands that ult. So overall,
Might completely went. We should not do
alright,
that.
and I completely like. I think his burst potential also increases quite a bit with his E having a higher ratio. Now he has more AP to do damage, so that just makes probably AP Malphite more viable, maybe. So it should be fair. Alright, Nocturne. Nocturne, I'm loving the fact he's getting some changes. It's another Q buff to him because of Duskblade nerfs. I'm just trying to probably counteract. Nothing much to see there. Uh, Olaf's R got nerfed. His movement speed towards enemy champions went down from 50% to 20% at level 1 of his ult. So probably reducing some power levels around his R.
Yeah, it's a much needed change. Olaf is extremely strong right now. If you start the snowball early, especially in solo queue, not even in solo queue, even in comp game, if you are snowballing, then you are able to just run over the opponents and you don't even have to build damage for that. You can build full tanking, you just run and just kill the opponent just by that constant spam of true damage and tanking. So yeah, much welcome nerfs to be honest. To
Yeah.
Olaf.
With Predator, I guess he was just getting way too strong and he's just around like catching people pretty easily as well. So I'm happy that he got this nerf. Squin has some bug fixes, much welcome. Rengar just base stat adjustments, I feel. Rumble has been getting a lot of buffs for the last 2 or 3 patches. His current buff is basically his Q damage increased from 135 to 175 at level 1, which is a 40 damage increase. And his base damage to minions has went down. So his Q will do more damage to champions and slightly less damage to minions early game. But I still think that is a pretty strong buff for trading in the early games. Like, what do you
Yeah,
think, Rose?
100%. Rumble is very good against the tanks. Rumble is able to completely, like even if against bruises as well, if he's able to get off a good start, he can be very potent. And against tanks, he completely demolishes them. So, I mean, it's a very, very welcome change because 40 damage is nothing to scoff at in the early game. On top of the fact that, the new Leandris is so effective on Rumble. So, I mean, yeah, this might just be the final push required to get him back into competitive gameplay. And I think, yeah, we might see Rumble players, I mean, we might see the return of Rumble to top lane because of this patch.
True. I mean, Riot loves Rumble every time. I think they always love that Rumble gets played competitively.
Yeah,
I
it's a
just,
hard champion to ban. Again, Mike.
yeah. So this Riot just loves playing around Rumble. They want him to be competitive, and I
Yeah,
think
because you have to, it's hard to tune him. Because if you give him a lot of damage, you just, that champion hurts. There's no two ways to think about it. And you can actually build him tanky as well with the Rylai's, with the Leandries, and it's not like he's going to die very
die.
fast because of his W.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, it's a potent champion. It's a hard champion to balance, but yeah, these are some much welcome buffs too.
Buffs. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sejuani has gotten some nerfs. Health growth went down from 95 to 88, and her stun duration at max rank went from 2 to 1.4. So it's like a 0.6 second stun duration nerf. I am happy with these things. I think Sejuani was very, very dominant in the jungle, and these stun nerfs basically at least help people get out of her ganks, right?
Yeah, I think it's good because some freshness again. Right now, the jungle is in actually a good spot. You can play anything right now. It's pretty good. So yeah, I think Sejuani nerfs are welcome. It's not like life changing. She's still strong. Yeah, you're still going to see her regardless. It's a slight nerf. Let's say that.
Yep. Shaco gets fixed finally. Last patch saw him gain a lot of pick rate increase because his Q had a 0.7 bonus attack damage. I think they've changed that to a zero point 0.4
I
bonus
think they should
attack.
have hotfixed that instead
Yeah, like
of
I,
which is
I remember my solo queue games where Shaker was literally like one Q was 70% of someone's damage, and he just like basically was able to
I
one combo
mean, there's
someone to
something
death.
wrong when the assassin can walk from in front of you and one shot you, right? It's assassin is supposed to come from side or angle which you can't see them coming from. The Shakos were just coming, going from the front, popping R, going into your face and killing you on the spot. So yeah, so they had overteam, and yeah, these nerves are actually really, really required for.
True. Coming on to Swain, who was basically flavor of the month in 8.6, picked just about everywhere, had an insane win rate, finally gets some nerfs on his passive, sorry, on his Q. Basically, his cooldown went from 5.5 to 7.5 at rank 1, and at rank 5 it's still the same, so basically an early level nerf, and his base damage got reduced by 10 at all ranks. So the nerfs aren't that big, but what do you think? Is Swain gonna still be dominant in the meta, Frost?
For sure, for sure. This is just enough to his queue. I mean, yeah, sure, 2 seconds added early on to his first, like to the first rank of his death hand. It's going to be affect his laning phase a little bit. It's not going to be life changing, right? Swain is not picked basically, for only for that Q his pick for the CC he deploys and the amount of damage he deals from mid game to early late. So it's not going to really affect that. These changes don't affect that a lot. He's still going to see a lot of play. Swain is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yep. And like I just like these nerfs seem like just a slap on the back. They're not really enough. I still think Swain might just be strong because this affects his early game, but come mid game after 6, I think he's just gonna be just as strong. If the 10 base damage would not affect his ratios as well, so I don't think he's going anywhere as well. Meanwhile, Zed has some small buffs. I don't think that's that relevant. And coming on to the itemization changes, Ginso's finally gets its gold cost upgraded with nothing to compensate in terms of stats. What do you think about that first?
I mean, it was required because everybody was just building. Every
Yeah.
single ADC was building it. When a Jin is building Rage Blade, there's something wrong. So, I mean, yeah, it was much required,
Yep.
I think.
Yeah, even I feel like Musty was having a field time. I still think it's good though, Frost, because if just the gold
Oh, it's
is
good for sure. They have this. They've
yeah,
not changed. There's no change to the stats, but yeah, I
just
mean, an extra 300, of course, is going to affect your back timing and all of that. But yeah,
yep.
it's harder to rush basically.
Another one change I was quite disappointed with was the Locket of the Iron Solari. It has been nerfed
So the
on.
shield has been nerfed by 8 and the per target's level is 15. So
There used to be a payoff to using Locket of the Iron Solari, right? But that payoff has sort of been decreased over time. So that's one change I don't really like.
what are your thoughts on the locket changes, Frost?
I mean, for sure, I think the tanky supports are not going to build it first anymore. Significant buff, nerfs to the item. I think it's not worthwhile building it unless you have at least 3000 HP on you, 3k plus HP on you. So yeah, I mean, it's good in a way because Locket was a staple rush item for every single tank support you played. Alistair, Grom, Thresh, everything. You complete your relic line, you complete that, and you just rush a Locket. It's good. I think it gives other options to the other items which can be built from the Aegis as well. So I mean, it's a good buff all around. I think the tanky junglers are going to benefit more from this. The Varmos into the what's the name of that item?
Gargoyle Stone Plate.
Yes, exactly. Gargoyle Stone
Oh,
Plate.
okay.
So, Gargoyle Stone Plate, Varmos, Locket. Yeah, then it's going to be really beneficial.
Fair enough.
So yeah, for
Alright.
the tanky junglers, it's good.
Moving on to the relic shield line, because of the cannon minion changes, which oh actually moving on to that, let's talk about the cannon minion changes first. Like cannon minions are getting a lot of gold in this patch right now, and it's like if you lose a cannon minion right now, you're really gonna lose a lot of gold. So what do you think about these changes? I personally like them a lot because now in top and mid you can actually deny the cannon, and denying a cannon has a lot more value than it did in the last few patches.
I mean, I think this is one of the most significant changes of this patch. Because of these things, certain matchups cannot be played anymore. And consistently denying a cannon on the opponent, it's going to hurt you in terms of your back timing, in terms of what item you can purchase at what time. and in terms of overall your goal economy in general. So I think it's a very significant change because you can't certainly play some matchups anymore if you're going to keep getting denied the cannon. So it's going to be very interesting to see because if somebody gets an advantage in a lane, be it bot lane, be it even in top lane, if in bruiser matchups, and if they consistently deny two or three cannons, four cannons because of their sheer lane bully prowess, it's going to become very hard because the other person is going to slowly fall very behind in terms of what items they can build. So yeah, I think it's a really big change which is going under the radar, at least from a competitive standpoint. It's not
Fair
going to
enough.
matter in solo queue because you're just going to look to kill the other person anyways.
More
It's,
denying certain champions. I do agree. I think it's gonna change. I think even in top lane, definitely who are lane bullies are gonna have a lot more time denying tanks a lot because if they can get the tanks off of the cannon minions, it's gonna slow down their goal and probably snowball them as well. So I'm really looking for those changes. But because of the changes to the passives to the cannon minions, you are saying that the relic shield line has basically lost half his GP10. What do you think, Frost? Is like, I mean, that's pretty significant in terms of goal generation for tanky supports, and this might just be enough to probably pull them out of the meta in a way.
putting them out of the meta. I mean, it's still the go-to item for the melee ones. I think 4 to 1, 2 to 1. Again, maybe it pulls them out, or maybe supports just start going for point because that's the only other option we have because they can't really go for spell thief because that's utter wastage for most of the tanky supports. So yeah, I mean, I think they nerfed it a bit too much. It could have been 4 to 2, and but then again they couldn't factor the 2 to 1, I guess, from Relic Shield. So yeah, it's interesting because in Korea certain people have started running coin on their tanks, so as in from the tanky support. So yeah, it affects Braum, it affects Alistair, but again the meta is shifting, and the enchanters are coming back. Nami is extremely strong right now. Nami,
Oh,
Lulu, Karma, all of these things are coming back slowly because of this nerf in general. Not that those champions did very well in the first place in terms of pure laning 2v2. So Nami is very strong right now. Lulu very strong right now. All of these things are coming back because this line is weaker, and because as a result of this, the frost line and the coin line has become
becomes
really
quite
a go-to
strong.
place.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and especially with the coupled with the locket nerves, it's just a bad time to be a tanky
Tank
support player
support
because
right now.
you are falling behind in terms of sheer gold. You're falling behind in terms of the one core item which you used to build. There's no reason really for you to play those supports. So right now Nami and all of the other enchanting supports are really good in a really good place right now.
Mana flow blend, I actually like the changes because now you get mana every 5 seconds, which is pretty cool actually. And as a person who goes like mid mages, who normally uses either ultimate hat or mana flow band along with a sort of presence of mind in the precision tree, I actually like the fact that mana flow band will give her like my mids more mana. I'm like a mage heavy mid, so I like the fact that it'll get at the end of the day it's sort of like buffed in a way. And presence of mind, I love the additional CDR because that works wonders with champions like Lux or even Oriana, to be honest, because you can just keep casting your ults more often, and that's always a good thing. So yeah.
True that. I mean, I'm looking forward to see how this affects the competitive meta because, like you said, enchanters might come back, and that basically means Ardent might come back in a way as well because it's one of the best things in enchanters as well. So, like bot lane could just probably see the ADs getting buffed again in a lot of ways, and like should be interesting to see how it pans out. Uh, I guess that covers it for the patch notes. I think more or less we've covered everything else. It's just gonna be fun to see how these patches affect the meta, and it's something that I think we'll get to know once we do so. So from the patch note side, I think we can basically conclude the session. Moving on, Frost, like one of the last segments in the show is what I want to talk to you is about the current Indian tournament. So we want to basically on every podcast cover the recent tournament that's happened and the results of it. And for this particular podcast, like the last tournament that happened was the Zotac Community Cup, and it was one. It was a very like amazing tournament to watch as well as for you to organize as well, and Ruthless did come out on top. And before I get to them, basically, I want to talk about the top three teams in the tournament who ended up being to the final. So starting off with White Shadows. Now White Shadows ended up being in the finals of the winners bracket, lost to Ruthless, ended up facing RvX in the losers bracket, and then lost to RvX. And both the games were an 0-2 loss on their side, and it happened the same day. I wanted to ask you, Frost, like, what do you think went wrong for White Shadows, and what do you think they need to do in the future to be able to like fix on their issues?
Okay, so bear with me because I'm going to be a little descriptive here.
Yes,
The
definitely.
amount, the reason I think the reason they had for swapping out their top lane, it was I think with you and they replaced you with Synox. I think the
Yes.
whole reason for all of that was because I think they wanted a more carry-oriented thing at top lane to happen, and I think that didn't really work out because I think Synox still hasn't completely adjusted to White Shadows, the playstyle they have yet. So White Shadows is a team which is very good in terms of coordinated gameplay, and something which coordination and going together and working together is something which has been always been their a strength. So Synox is still going to take some time to adjust to that particular play style, and I think once he meshes in well we might see an improvement in terms of where things went wrong in the tournament. I think in the proper sets I don't think Synox played his lanes very well in the terms of the matchups he was given, and the other times I think White Shadows just looked discoordinated because of that. And I think Draciel's form on the main two sets was also a little bit off as well. But yeah, again, like it's one tournament and I can't really base a lot of, long distance projections on that thought. But yeah, I think once Synox is able to integrate better, I think he'll be able to, I think we might see a good comeback from White Shadows.
Fair enough, fair enough. I mean, definitely they have proven themselves to be a top tier team in the Indian community, and they have won a few tournaments in the
Mike,
past as
Mike,
well.
Mike, put Mike
Hey,
there.
Mike.
Oh, sorry. Definitely, I do agree. And White Shadows has proven to be one of the top League of Legends teams in the Indian community. They have won a few tournaments as well, and they've always been in the top two of most tournaments. So I'm sure that they'll bounce back from this defeat, and we have more tournaments on the way. So it'll be fun, honestly, to have a look at the new White Shadows and see how they're able to integrate Cyanox into their team and be able to figure out these matches. Moving on to RvX Frost. So RvX got a shocking upset by I think it was Gucci Gang in the winners bracket,
Yeah,
and
it was.
it was something that I think all of us were like, okay, did that just happen? But somehow, like, they did not let that loss deter them, and they basically swept the losers bracket. They had one tough game against Rinku's team. I forgot the name of it, but apart from that, they played
Cross Extreme.
yeah, Cross Extreme, and they played really well, and they actually were able to defeat White Shadows as well. And even in the games that they played against Ruthless, I think game one was pretty close. What do you think about like RVX as a team? I want to understand from you, and I want to, apart from Forest, who we know is the star jungler, like what do you think is like the core strengths of the team, and like what sets them apart to become so good that they are the best Bangla team and obviously one of the best top two or at least teams in the Indian subcontinent.
Now, this is something, if you look at the history of this scene, right, be it here, be it in Bangladesh, be it anywhere for that matter, the top teams or the top team is generally the one which has the best mechanical players in question. Because if you have the best mechanical players in your role, right, you are able to snowball your lanes for an easy victory. It's an easier victory from there. So again, it's the same case with White Shadows as I'm no, sorry, White Shadows, the Red Vipers as well. The players they do have in their roster right now, they're the best mechanically in terms of their role individually. I can't say that about I think Shiki anymore because apparently there is a really big so a really big mid laner there in Bangladesh who I haven't met or who I haven't seen the gameplay for, but till now at least all of them are at the prime of their role. So basically just from that you get that confidence, and once coordinated piece, like once mechanically coordinated and mechanically good players start coordinating well together, you get a very deadly team on your hands. That is what Red Vipers has become. When they took Panda and Flash from LEH after it disbanded, they supplemented the weaker side of their team with a very very strong replacement, and they have meshed together very well. So that's why they're a very important squad to play against. Of course, they are liable to their own sets of weaknesses, which they are very clear in certain scenarios. When Seeker is not able to snowball, and when Seekers gets forced on a tank, and certain coordination issues. Like their bot lane also has a very like a lot of coordination issues sometimes. They otherwise on some certain scenarios they're very good, on certain scenarios they're not that good. So there's a bit of consistency issues there.
Consistency issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a team which relies solely around their jungler. Like they have shifted slightly when Flash has come into the picture, but this is a team which functions majorly due to all the action their jungler creates. A lot like White Shadows in that regard. But yeah, they need to find moving on to the future. They need to find other outlets to carry from, because I think jungle is not a position you can really hard brute force carry things from. So I mean, I think there are a lot of coordination issues which needs to be fixed among them for at least in terms of practice. Like, I don't think Red Vipers practices together at all, which is something very strange because it's such a good team, and they're not able to practice, or they're not meshing well together in that because they're not able to practice together. It's really sad. I think if they step up their practice routine, they have a very very talented roster, and they you can see even greater things from them.
Definitely, they have a lot of potential as well. But speaking of not just potential, but stacking as well as everything, we have to talk about the winners of the Zotac Community Cup, Team Ruthless Gaming. And honestly, like this roster seems pretty stacked, and I think they probably have star players in their mid, their top, and probably the support roles with very, very promising AD carry and a very, very smart player who's now taken over the jungler role and is doing really, really well. So, like, I think like Ruthless might probably be the team that might usher in another era of dominance from the way it looks like, because they convincingly defeated the next two best teams, 2-0 and 2-0 or 3-0 of the final. So, like, what do you think about Ruthless Gaming first? Like, you definitely have played with these guys in the past, and do you think like are they just going to be unstoppable for the next few tournaments? Because it doesn't look
For
like
a
anyone's
while, of
close.
course, I don't think nobody even is going to come close to them because the sheer laning prowess. Uh, Not to say that Ruthless is not without their weaknesses, but the sheer laning prowess of all the three lanes, it is unmatched right now in this scene. So mid lane, top lane, bot lane, like all the players, very good mechanically, very very snowbally in nature, and because of that sheer amount of mechanical skill, you can carry from any outlet. The top laner can carry, the mid laner can carry, and even the bot lane can step up and carry at any given time. And that is how you lay the basis of a foundation of a very strong team, because you don't have only one source to win. You can play around any of your players, and they can you can just facilitate for them, and they can just carry. So that is how Ruthless is right now, with a very strong supportive setup from the jungler. It's very good to see that they are meshing well so together. They work their butts off when they form the team. They practice, and they hit the challenger in the flex queue in Garena, which is a good accomplishment, a very good accomplishment for that matter, all five of their accounts. But yeah, again, moving on, there are certain very direct weaknesses which can be exploited by teams, and they have to work on that because if they work on plugging those small weaknesses, I think Ruthless is going to be one of the most unstoppable teams, at least for this season alone, because of the sheer amount of talent they have in their roster.
I agree. I mean, definitely the Zotac Community Cup is probably one of the starts of this team because they just look unstoppable at this point. And I'm curious to see. We have heard some other teams stepping up, and there is this unknown mid laner from Bangladesh who is in Bangladesh at this point who might have his own team, and like it's gonna be fun in the next 3-4 months to
And then,
see.
yeah, I think he's master tier. He was in master tier in Korea. I
He's
think he has a DD
challenger
passport
in
as
Garena
well.
already for us. I think he's solo queue challenger already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if he's master in Korea, then there is, he
Yeah,
must
this must
100% be
be
challenger here as well.
a piece of
So
cake.
I mean, it's good to see. It's good to see. I mean, we need to see because again, League is not a solo player game anymore. He's going to be good, sure, but can the other players in his team step up and can they be as good as him? Because if the other lanes are not good enough, they're just going to camp him. They're just going to keep camping him, keep camping him, keep camping him, and get to shut him down. And no matter how good you are, if there is point and click CC, you're going to die. So if the other lanes don't step up, This is not going to be fun. Sure, having him is a very, very big advantage because you can play around your mid lane and mid lane affects the whole map if you are able to roam and influence side plays. But yeah, how well they are coordinated, how they're going to work out is something you should only be able to find in the next tournament. And yeah, it's going to be really, really fun to see. I'm personally, like, everybody is very excited because, you know, if somebody with such a rich background, if they're coming back, it's fun to see. We need to see how good they are.
Completely agreed. It's like basically, new challenger approaches, and it's always competitive. Like I would read, like the scene is fun if there is more teams and they're equally stacked.
Again, like one of the very like something I need to stress on is good to have him in the scene because yeah, I think Kaka is going to get a much needed challenge from everyone and from this guy, and I think it's going to force him even to step up his own game. So it's going to be really fun to see. I hope that he's able to bring a much needed freshness to the mid lane scene. But
Definitely agree. Like it's just more fun when you have two or three teams that are equally, skilled and having one dominant team. And let's just see if this new player and this new team is able to cause any ripples in what seems to be a start of very dominant era for Ruthless Gaming. Well, that's just something time will have to tell. I think that's probably the last topic that we can discuss for the podcast today. Uh, Frost, do you have any final thoughts, or do you have anything you'd like to share with the community and everyone who's going to be watching this podcast?
my final thoughts are first of all a very big thank you to you and the whole of LC's team for having me here, having me as the first guest. It's a very big honor. I'm going to be able to put into words how big of an honor it is because there are very, very, very talented and very good players in our scene. And yeah, it's going to be really, really, really. I'm really thankful because you guys gave me the first chance to come on the show, and yeah, for the community in general, yeah, I know we've had a good amount of tournaments now, but yeah, just stay tuned, be participative in the community, form teams, participate, play, have fun, post on the page, just keep participating. And yeah, we are growing at a good rate and it's going to go up at an even more higher rate the more you guys participate in tournaments in terms of coordination on the page, the more fun it's going to be. So please increase your participation in the scene. Senior players, get into the act, get behind the players, get people up. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to realize our dream of having that player or having that team on an international stage. And yeah, it's just really, really thank you once again to everybody at LCI for having me.
Thank you, Frozen. It's been a pleasure to have you on board as well. Like we basically this probably podcast, like it turned out to be so much more detailed and just so much more fun to be able to listen to not just your thoughts but also to the Indian community and the League of Legends scene from your words of someone who has been around from the very start of everything. So we hope that's the whole goal here at LCI. We want to be able to talk to people from the community, get to know their thoughts, and give the sort of exposure to the people that who have been working and who have been playing and who've been enjoying and are a part of the community in that sense. And we are just happy that we can do this, and our just hope is that we can keep doing it for moving on as well. So to whoever who's watching this, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, or if there's anything you want to know, just please feel to comment on the YouTube channel below and on the video itself. We'll get back to you on our next podcast. It is our first podcast, so apologies from our side if there have been any distortions or maybe some setbacks. But we're just someone who's trying to make an initiative towards the community as well, and we hope that we have your support moving forward as well. So if you like this video, please comment, subscribe, share this video across your friends who like League of Legends, and yeah, if you would want to be featured, if you would like to be a part of the community and would like to work with LCI in some capacity, we'd be more than happy to partner with you. So from our side, guys, the first episode, that's a wrap from us. It's been great having Frost. Thank you for being there, and we will see you guys for the next episode. Kudos.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Right, fine.